I'm not just talking about the history of like knowledge of music and everything, but even sampling. There would be no hip hop without James Brown. And a lot of people don't know who the fuck James Brown is. Hello and welcome to another episode of Mad Makings of Music, the podcast with wild stories, philosophical musings, and urgent conversations all around music. Last episode, we talked a lot about the ways music is being created nowadays, and this episode, we are going to focus a little bit more on how it's being consumed, or the art of listening.
Oh, that sounds good. I mean, it's not about teaching you how you should listen. It's about just showing you the possibilities of how you can approach the music and the art of listening. That means maybe you just listen in one-dimensional way. That means through your body. And I think there's something missing. You should be listening with your spirit too. And yeah, we're gonna narrow it down.
Yeah. And before we get started, you should probably know who you're listening to. My name is Jina Rose. I'm a singer. I grew up in a musician's family, hearing many different genres. And I did have a little bit of classical training as well, but I am most inspired by funk and soul music. And listening to music is my therapy. Besides screaming and actual therapy. I am here with my co-host, who happens to be my father, Mike Doctor.
Happens to be, yes, thank you. My name is Mike Doctor, and I was also enjoying some kind of a classical education, but at the end it was just street education. That means playing with the musicians. It's an experience I had in my life, a long time in the music showbiz. All right?
Yeah.
So let's hit it.
Music is everywhere nowadays. I mean, you're grocery shopping, there's a radio playing. You're at work, there might be a radio playing. Even in public bathrooms, there's radios playing. We can't even shit in silence. Isn't that kind of fucked up?
That was a heavy statement. But
it's kind of true.
But you're right. You're right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love listening to music also in the background sometimes, you know, on the way to work. I enjoy that. It's not completely in the background. You can be focused on it, you know, when you're just sitting in the bus or something. But yeah, a lot of people use it to do their chores or whatever and have something to listen to at the same time, which I understand. It can be also helping you focus. It can, you know, just make you less bored with what you have to do. Absolutely. And I also enjoy it, like when I'm cooking. I love listening to Santana, you know. And I would say I can still focus on the music.
That means Santana won't spoil your dish.
No, I think Santana spices up my dishes.
Oh, yeah. All right. I guess you're right.
But yeah, you know, I think it can be great, but also if it's becoming so normal, so omnipresent, just constantly playing in the background, is it maybe also losing a little bit of its...
of magic.
Yeah, or like, can you really listen consciously when you're always doing something else? And I do try to take the time to really just sit down and only listen to music every once in a while. I don't know how many people do that, you know?
Yeah.
Or like, do they just get bored and they want to be able to do something?
No, it's about the time.
Yeah, it's also
you
about
don't
the time.
take the time to listen. Because everything is speeded up, everything is fast, and you think when it's waste of time, you might think. Even some people, I don't listen to the music. I mean, it's a waste of time. Oh, that sounds terrible, really.
Yeah.
But I guess it's happening too.
Yeah, there's always something to do, right? And so it's easier to consume it in the background, multitasking, right? And also with streaming, everything is available all the time. And I mean, it's amazing. Of course, it's like you can just be like, oh, I feel like listening to this. And then you have it right there at your fingertips. It can be great, but sometimes I think we take it for granted that everything is available.
Definitely.
And you know, in the past, like you tell me about how you used to go to the vinyl store and just look through them.
Yeah, well, that's actually an adventure. I remember in Hamburg, yeah, I saw that design. It was a lion or something, and
Yeah, black and white lion.
yeah, and I started to listen to it, and it was like, what the fuck is this, man? It was the first album of Santana, and in Europe, I guess he didn't have such a name like in America, and it was exciting to discover something by your own.
Yeah, nowadays, I mean, you have those streaming services, they recommend new music to you all the time based on what you're listening to. And so you can still discover something new, but yeah, where's the adventure? Right? You don't have to look for it. It's just served to you on a silver platter.
Algorithms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also wonder, of course, you know, it's giving you artists that you don't know, but even then it's all based on what you're listening to. So it's sort of always the same thing or similar things over and over again, and you never discover something that you haven't heard, you know, something that is maybe outside your comfort zone. But that's important too, to just open your mind to something different. And, you know, we're talking about like discovering something new, but that's relative. Something new can also be something old in that
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. That's what I wanted to say. Going back in the music history can be really rewarding
Yeah.
because yeah, there are jewels, and yes, of course. I mean, new music is there because of the old music.
Yeah.
It's like you know, you're building up on it, you know, and so I suggest one should listen to some old stuff too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we'll talk about that even more. But yeah, you have so much available. And in the past, it was like, oh, you're listening to, you have this new CD or a vinyl or whatever. I even remember it, like having a new CD and you just listen to it back and forth. And it's so exciting and there's so much to hear. And now it's just like you have something new and you get bored really quickly and you need something new again. It's just a lot of consumption. It's going more in the direction of consumption than it used to in the past, I think.
Like playlists. And
I mean, you have your own playlist where you're collecting music all the time and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and I love it.
you know how it started with those sticks, and you had suddenly thousands of songs
That was
available
already incredible, right?
You can't listen to it all. It's just too much of information, music information.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's also important to have some fresh stuff again and again, not just like always listening to the same songs.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a little bit of both. It's important to have some new input, but also if you need something new all the time, yeah, I don't know, are you appreciating the music that you already have, right? It's also interesting to analyze how our listening habits have changed in regards to what are we listening on.
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, I love having portable headphones. I think it's a great invention. I love just being able to walk around outside and just be listening to music and really good quality. But I also have over-ear headphones. So yeah, if you have
Yeah, you have
AirPods,
a
it's
really
different.
good quality of
Yes,
headphone.
my brother gave them to me. I'm very happy. But yeah, no, if you're there's so many people who have AirPods, or in general the little in-ears, but I mean, come on, most people use AirPods now. And I mean, they are convenient, they are tiny, I give them that, but the quality suffers. It just cannot be the same listening experience. And it's okay if you say, I just want something small that I can put in my pocket, that's fine. But if that's all you ever listen on, like, can you really hear everything? Can you really enjoy it to the fullest?
Or when you have listening with your laptop or whatever and having a shabby speakers,
Sure.
that's also not the way to go for the
Yeah.
beautiful sound of music.
Yeah.
Then you're missing on something.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, even with the speakers, of course, there's great speakers out there, but with all those Bluetooth speakers where you don't really have stereo, if it's just like this one compact box, right?
Oh, that's a fun though.
Yeah, it's fun. It's very convenient.
Yeah, sure.
We appreciate it. We have this tiny JBL Go, and it's awesome. And also, you don't have, like, you could just connect it so quickly.
Are you
with
doing
Bluetooth.
advertising now?
No, but if I mention AirPods, I have to mention something else. I don't want to just mention that fucking company. No, but it's convenient, but also there the sound suffers, and it seems that there is a trend towards compact, smaller, more portable, convenient, whether we're talking about speakers or headphones, which I do get the point of it, but the quality of the music is not what's the priority.
We can mention Neil Young now.
Yeah.
He was disappointed, and like that we were expecting the music industry to move on in a sense of how to listen to the music, and he was complaining about these things like it got worse. We have an MP3 most of the time, which is really much worse than CD, and there was already the kind of a complaint about the transition from the vinyl to the CD. Something got lost. Yeah, it sounded suddenly digital, right? But it had some features which are great, like more bass. You could record, put more music on it, and so. But the sound, you can still think about it. What is better? But to go from the CD down to MP3, that's bad. And you can get some like waves, FLAC. Mm-hmm. So it's out there. It's really decent. But normally everybody goes for MP3, and that's bad.
Yeah, and especially if you consider how much you pay nowadays for those streaming services.
Yeah, that's comes to it.
Right.
Money.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, if we would pay more and get better quality, that sounds fair. But if the quality is getting worse and we're sort of paying more, that doesn't quite add up, right?
But you have your couple of thousand songs.
Yeah, but you don't have them. You don't have them. If you're streaming, of course you can.
You don't
have
possess them.
No, you don't. Of course
you
have a.
them.
You
That's
have a.
Also another.
Yeah, you're
thing,
paying a lot of money, and if you stop paying, it's all gone, right? Of course,
So,
you can. You have a download feature so that you can listen offline.
Yeah.
But that's not the same as having the files.
Yeah, that's right.
God, it reminds me of when I was like I don't know, 10 years old, and I had this. It wasn't even a touchscreen phone yet, and I just had like, I don't know, maybe 3 songs, like MP3 files on this phone that had barely any space.
3 songs?
Yeah, I just had a few songs. I don't even remember how I downloaded them, definitely illegally, but I remember how we sent them to each other via Bluetooth, and it was incredible just to like, oh, you can give me this song. It's just such a different time. Yeah. Another thing with how we listen, and that's also interesting, is volume, the question of loudness, right?
Yeah.
And generally, music has gotten louder, but also just more compressed over the years.
That means losing the dynamics.
Yeah. I mean, there is an intense tendency in the clubs that it's just getting louder and more bass. Sometimes like even with earplugs in, I can barely handle the bass. It's really getting intense, I gotta say. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. I do understand it can feel great to feel the whole bass pulsing through your body.
Well, probably you're full of substances.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people definitely also take drugs at parties or festivals or whatever, and then it improves the listening experience, or yeah, you just sort of more perceptive, I guess.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean,
Yeah, it can be a good experience,
absolutely.
but then you do start to wonder, like, if you need the drugs to sort of enjoy it, or if you need to push that volume and that bass to the absolute max, maybe the music is just boring.
You have to compensate.
Yeah, you have
Sometimes.
to compensate a little bit, right?
But we ain't no accusing anybody here, right?
Yeah, no, I think
I mean, if you like it, you like it.
absolutely. If you enjoy it, that's great. That's the point.
Yeah, just
And-
don't get your ears damaged.
Yeah, that's important. That's really important.
This is the message now here, right here.
Public announcement, please use earplugs. We've also had experiences where they were like, oh no, you can't be too loud, and then it's just like it doesn't come across the same way if you can like give it really some power, right?
I always love to play loud, and I must call myself happy that I didn't damage my ears like a lot of other musicians did, like when
Especially rock stars.
and rock stars like the guitar player of Who, the Who was really, he went for
Pete
it.
Townsend, yeah.
And Pete Townsend, yeah, at the end he had to play in a specially built booth for him on the stage.
What?
And it was transparent, so he could communicate with the other musicians in the band, but he was
Still,
really
he was sort of isolated in this
isolated
booth, yeah.
in that booth, and that's
That's
amazing.
crazy.
So,
Damn.
yeah,
yeah.
what's
your secret? What's your secret, Mike?
my
Doctor?
secret is that I am a believer. No, I'm joking.
Sure.
No, my secret, I don't know. I just maybe I just didn't care, and I was lucky. I cannot say anything about it more than that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember that kind of concert we gave in Amsterdam with my band, and it was nuts. Like there was this big red light, and it was set to certain amount of decibels, and so when we were playing, and of course when you are excited, you might give it more. You might be sounding louder than usually. Bang! The light went on, and you didn't have a sound at all. The whole band, only the drummer, of course.
What, they turned the power off?
They turned the power
Like
off.
automatically when you reach those
in
decibels?
the middle of my solo.
What the fuck?
It was one of the worst experience I ever had on the stage.
How can you even play like that? You're just gonna be scared to like give it your all.
So the performance is shit then. 'Cause
Yeah, you have to hold back.
like you say, you have to hold back, right? And yeah, that was really something. Was only once that I have experienced something like that. Never again.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, like it's when I remember those clubs in New York, they were the live music. They were always playing so loud. And when we visited Glasgow together, all those live acts, they were so loud you couldn't talk, and which is fine.
Yeah, just
But
shut up and listen.
watch your ears.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, just because we were talking about like drugs and clubs and bass and everything, I do see like why people want to enhance sort of their consciousness so they can feel the music differently. But it reminds me of the thing you said about people listening more with their bodies
Yeah.
than with their spirit, right? Even though it changes your consciousness, if you're at the party and there's so much input, I still think that you probably can't really consciously focus on the music. It's probably just about having a heightened perception in general, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and so maybe not just at the parties. We're not saying do this at home. Don't do anything that we tell you to do. But yeah, maybe to actually take the time in a safe space at home or something. And if you're in an altered state of mind, to listen to music and really go into the experience with that intention, right? I think that's going to be a whole other experience than when you're taking stuff at parties. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a surrounding.
Yeah.
It's also might be also interesting way to take some substances and go into the nature, and not only admire the nature and the creation of the creator, but also listening to the music in the nature. Not, when you're taking some substances, not only at home, go outside in the woods and listen to the music. Then, wow, that's another experience, and I think it's, I think it's very interesting to do things like that if you go for it.
Yeah, if you want to.
If you want to.
But be safe.
Be safe, yeah.
So there's many factors that influence the way that we perceive music, whether we're talking about our headspace that we're in, or also the surroundings, like you said, whether you're in nature or you're at home or you're at a party, right?
Yeah, that's...
And even at a live concert, I think there's also, all those factors going into how the audience perceives the music, whether it's, the place, the timing, how good the equipment is, who is there, right? How's the atmosphere in general? And then, of course, also the show, the whole show. And it's so interesting. I think nowadays in pop music, it seems like the show is more important than the music itself, right? There's just this incredible production with lights and dancers and costumes and choreography and everything, and it's great. I can appreciate a good show. But yeah, to what degree is it necessary, or when does it start sort of distracting even from the music?
Yeah, well, normally when you go to the jazz concert, then you don't have a show at all. There are some exceptions, of course, and just thinking about the late Miles Davis. Yeah, that's the story. Sort of he was asking his manager, why I'm not playing for the big audience like the rock stars. And so his manager has told me that, you have to change the music a little bit, because your music is a little too intellectual. And then the appearance on the stage, and then he started to design his own clothes, and suddenly he was like a big wizard on the stage, and he has made it. He was playing for the huge audience, So this is something you can think about why some of the jazz stars became big.
Because they went for the show, you mean?
They
Yeah.
won for the show, but also they changed the music a
To
little
become a
bit.
little bit more appealing to the
More appealing to
mainstream.
the mainstream, which is funny because he was never really mainstream. Although I remember he went for some covers, which was a mainstream, and he did some minimalistic trumpets playing and a great video clip. So yeah, it's how far you want to go, but I mean, normally the show comes from the rockers or poppers. Yeah, to me, the show is important, but it's the way you perceive it. Like my friend who is listening to all kind of music, and then he went to the concert of Tower of Power, and he didn't like it at all, cause they had this incredible American show, and he didn't went for it.
Sort of a little bit also the cliche choreographies
cliche,
of the horn
yeah.
section.
Yeah, the horn section is just moving left and right.
That's a little bit cliche, but I think
Yeah,
it has its charm.
especially
have fun
when,
with it.
especially when you play a great music.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
But
true.
when you are just moving from left to the right and play sort of shit music,
Yeah, then
then
it's just stupid choreography too.
yeah, everything counts.
Yeah, and also it's interesting how the audience perceives you or how we perceive ourselves. And
Yeah.
sometimes we think like, oh, that was a great show, but like the audience is like, yeah, whatever. Or other times, we see like everything that we could have done better, and the audience is just so enthusiastic, and like, it's also like you perceive yourself also differently than the people who listen to
Yeah, I
you.
remember that show of Frank Zappa in Rotterdam. And I happened to be backstage because I knew some musicians, and then
Yeah, no big deal, no big deal.
and then I was sitting, in the front seats, like, and Frankie, he just went for it. He does it. It was this kind of a show he did because of his album and his song, you are an asshole, you are an asshole. And they say, oh yeah, yes, I am an asshole. They think that, and they cheer up, they go for it. And and
Wow.
I remember the one concert I was trying to do the same thing with my band, and I went to the mic and I was just doing not the same like Frank Zappa, but I was like sort of yelling at them and swearing at them, and they all loved it. They loved me, and I didn't understand, but I do understand now. Of course, it's like a manipulation of the audience. This is an interesting topic. Anyway, it has something to do with the show. Everybody does it different,
Yeah. As you say, jazz musicians often don't do much of a show. Classical musicians are also an example where, like, especially, of course, orchestras, they don't give a shit about no show. You're just there, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna listen.
The audience as well.
Yeah, exactly. Don't cough, don't move.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody has to be nice and stiff.
Although the solo players, they are allowed to have some extravagant clothes and
Yeah.
move around,
Yeah, exaggerate also a little bit, right?
exaggerate a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, a lot. In my eyes, all right.
Yeah, as you always said, when the classical musicians want to show emotion, they say exaggerate.
That's right.
You could think, well, because at the classical concerts you don't have this whole show, does that mean that the audience is more focused on the music? Are they listening more consciously because of it?
Yeah, that's a good point, I would say.
It could be, but I also think, then again, yeah, the show is a part of the live performances, and yeah, it's a part of it, and it influences the way that people perceive your music, but that's also what makes a great performer, when you can sell your music and you can bring it across the right way.
We were talking about the loudness. I really love the classical music, but when I go to the cello concert, like a piece written for cello, and you are sitting in the 10th row, it's still good. But when you go like to 20th row, you don't hear the cello. You know what? Because they are afraid of the microphones. So, in other words, the orchestra is forced to play so soft so you can hear the cello. That means the orchestra does not have the full power, and it's a pity. And it's again about the loudness and
the
how you
listening
approach
experience.
it. And so the guy who's sitting in 20th row somewhere, he doesn't have the same experience as the guy who is sitting in front.
Yeah, and there it would make sense to be a little bit less purist about the whole technology thing and just say we're going to use some microphones just to enhance the experience for everybody. And it's, that's okay. It would be okay, in my opinion, in my humble opinion.
Humble opinions. We are all humble.
Generally, people who listen to classical music, or especially if you've had a classical education, you know how to listen to music more consciously, in the sense of really listening to what is going on and listening to the different instruments in the whole composition, right?
Yeah.
Can they use that same ability of listening also on other genres?
Can they then listen to the pop music and distinguish between the bass and drum and all kinds of things, keyboards? Yeah.
Well, I was lucky to learn that from you, how to sort of distinguish the instruments. You always told me like, oh, do you hear this? Like, it's very quiet in the mix, so you have to focus on it. And then suddenly you become aware of how this whole mix is made up of all of these layers, and they all have their place. They all have their volume and their panning, and then it all comes together, right?
Building up the house.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, being able to analyze music in that sense of really focusing on one voice at a time. And that is definitely something that you can practice. Absolutely.
Yeah. You don't have to be a musician for that.
No. Anybody can learn that, I think. It's just, I think that a lot of people never really think about it like that. Like, I grew up with you and you told me, like, focus on this, focus on that. And then, I learned it that way. But I think anybody can learn it. And, it's funny because the sort of mainstream music, which is very simple, sometimes I'm like, well, yeah, of course it gets boring. There's not that much to hear. Very often nowadays you have like a beat and a voice, and then you get a little bit of harmony pads, and that's sort of it already. But that might exactly be a good place to start practicing, to hear all the different stuff going on, and eventually you can listen to something more complex, and it's not so overwhelming to try and distinguish the different instruments. And they can enhance your listening experience, but it's also important for musicians, right, to know what are the other musicians doing.
Yeah, there are certainly a lot of musicians out there. They don't go for it. I would say a lot of guitar players don't listen that consciously. They just listen to the guitar, and the rest is sort of not that important, right?
Also, I thought about this, and I was thinking about what else can listening mean, besides music. And, it can be, of course, about listening to a person talk. And I just thought of this parallel because I think sometimes when we're having a conversation, we're like thinking about what I want to say, right? And then I forget to listen to you. And then it's like, I'm not responding to you. I'm just doing my monologue. And then it's not going to have a good outcome because the conversation is supposed to be a collaboration. And I think it's similar in music, where it's like, if you're only thinking about what am I gonna play next, like what am I doing, then you are not communicating with the other musicians, and it's never gonna be the same quality like when you really listen to the other person and you try to play accordingly, right?
Yeah, but it's ultimate goal of making a music
Yeah.
to communicate, and also it's when we talk about the audience and so on, how do they perceive it? I mean, there is also one opinion that music doesn't live if you don't communicate it.
Yeah,
That
if you
means if
can't share
nobody's
it. Yeah.
listening to your music, then it's dead. That sounds terrible, though.
I think you can play for yourself and have a lot of joy in it.
Sure.
But yeah, in a certain way, it is meant to share.
Yeah.
And especially, of course, if we're talking about live music, that needs an audience. And you also cannot sort of keep the energy going if there is nothing sort of coming back from the audience. Definitely. But anyway, so as we're talking about this conscious listening and being able to hear what's going on, yeah, I think that like you can start with like simple music and then eventually listen to something more complex. And I think that's the awesome thing about great music, is that it doesn't get boring, because every time you listen, you hear something new, right? And that's what's exciting about it. So I think it's important to listen to different genres, and as you said before, also to older music, like music from different times. Exactly. And it helps you put the music into context and understand it in a deeper way. Definitely. And I think when sometimes this perception of music makes me feel alone, because I feel like I can't share my experience of listening with some of my friends who listen mostly to modern mainstream music. And that's not just limited to the genre that we call pop nowadays. I mean, it can also be rap or reggaeton or techno, or I don't know, but just like mainstream genres. I feel like if I express my opinions to them, I'm just going to come across like a judgmental asshole. or I'm scared that I'm ruining their enjoyment of the music they like. I don't want to do that, obviously. And so I just feel like it's better to, keep my opinions to myself. And that can feel really disconnecting sometimes.
And sad.
Yeah.
That's a little sad.
Yeah, it is. And
because it's about communication.
Yeah, and like it's nice to share sort of the way that you experience music, or what you like or what you don't like. And that's the point. I just want to have a conversation. I'm not trying to, tell people what they should listen to. I mean,
exactly.
it's different with my long-term romantic partner, who, I don't know, they're the kind of friend I can talk to this stuff about, because they're open-minded, and sometimes we have different opinions, and that's okay. We can respect it. Sometimes they even skip a song on their playlist because they know that I don't like it, and I'll be annoyed.
Oh, that's so cute.
Right?
I love that.
But yeah, I think not only is it because I can be myself around them, but also because they know that when I'm judging a song, that I'm not judging them for listening to it. And I think that's probably what a lot of people will think, don't tell me what to listen to or not to listen to. Who are you to judge whether something is good or bad?
I remember I had a lot of quarrels about what's good and what's bad in the music, and calling the other person names, and he would think that I'm out of it, and whatever.
It just gets so personal sometimes.
Yeah, it gets really personal.
That's why sometimes I prefer just to not talk about it. But
yes,
I am not. The point is not to judge music. It's rather about having an open conversation about these things. And also, what annoys me is when people say, "Oh, it's just a matter of taste."
Yeah.
It's not. I'm sorry, but if you think that's what it is, it says a lot about your understanding of music, because maybe all you can judge is whether you like something or not. But if you understand music, then you can listen to any genre, even genres that you don't really like, and still you can approach it with an open mind. You can listen to what is going on, like the groove, the intonation, the originality of the songwriting.
Okay.
You can still judge the musicality even if you don't like a genre.
Sure, but I think the thing is that it's not about the bad music; it's about bad musicians.
Fuck, right.
That sounds
Yeah, sure.
harsh.
No, but then you could
It
say bad
sounds
musicians
harsh.
make bad music. But again, it's not about the genre.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, but I think it's fine when you like something, and the other one doesn't like that. That's
Sure,
fine. That's
sure.
what is it about? But we should not forget to mention that there is really a lot of things out there which are really bad. I mean, in terms of music, it's really amateur-like and whatever you call it, really bad playing. And of course, if you are not a musician, you don't hear that. But
Yeah.
if you are a musician, you hear it, and that makes a difference. Yet you are not you are not supposed to attack them because of that. Because
Yeah, of course.
that's the way
Everybody's
it
entitled
is.
to listen to what they want. But that's the thing. It's not about judging people for listening to something that maybe I think is not good, you know? I actually it's a little bit of a funny parallel, but it's like eating meat, because I've been vegan for 12 years, and well, there used to be times for sure when I would judge people for eating meat, but now I think differently about it. I don't, if I'm going to judge somebody, it's not for eating meat per se, but it's for eating meat without any sort of consciousness behind it, without questioning their consumption or the impact of the
Yeah.
product that they are buying, right? And I think it's similar with music. I don't want to like judge people or tell them like you shouldn't listen to that. I think the problem with mainstream music nowadays is not that it exists or that people like it. The problem is that so many people listen to it without ever questioning it, without ever putting it into context with other genres, with music from other times. And you put this really well the other day. A lot of young people don't pay their respects to all the music that made it possible for this music to exist now that they love. For example, and I mean, I'm not just talking about the history of like knowledge of music and everything, but even sampling. There would be no hip hop without James Brown. And a lot of people don't know who the fuck James Brown is. And
Yeah, that's
yeah, so
right.
it's like there's all of this music that without it, you know, it wouldn't exist what we're listening to nowadays. Or another example would be modern covers that are actually sort of butchering really great older songs, and people don't even know that it's a cover. And this brings us to our new segment, All Covers Considered. All covers considered. All covers considered. So, there's a lot of covers out there. And today we're talking about modern covers of older songs. And it's really strange that artists who are covering songs, they don't have to say that it's a cover or who the song was, you know, originally recorded and written by. They can just do a cover and people won't even know that it's a cover. And in some cases, those covers will be incredibly popular and actually so much worse than the original. And the one example that comes to mind for me and that actually just makes me want to throw up is the great song Ain't Nobody by Shaka Khan, the one and only. And there's this cover, I don't know, it was made like a few years ago and it just blew up, I guess also through some social media videos and stuff. And it's so fucking bad. I showed it to you the other day.
Yes.
It took this great song, it stripped it down. There's no groove. The singing is bad. You know, it's just like it's barely resembling what it used to be, except of course the great melody. It's catchy still, and that's what people like about it. And that's not what they did themselves, you know, it's stolen. It's stolen. Now,
They don't even mention.
yeah, that's the worst thing about it, right?
Yeah.
If at least people knew, okay, that's a cover, then let's go and check out the original. Then it would at
Exactly.
least sort of, that would be fair, right? So now we get to the worst part. Okay, wait, actually, maybe I think I need to look this up just to be completely sure I'm telling you the right numbers. But I showed you the song, but I didn't show you how many views it
Yes,
has.
you-
The
yes, you
music
did
video
not, I
on
know.
YouTube, because I wanted you to guess. Okay. So, do you need maybe the comparison? Do you want to know first
No,
how many views Shaka Khan had, or do you want to guess?
I guess.
Okay, guess Shaka Khan.
Like a couple of millions.
Yeah, 12 millions. Not bad. Now, guess
Oh
how
man, then I have to
how many
go
views
up and
does
up
the
and up.
cover have on YouTube?
30. Oh no, I knew
Continue.
it. Okay, 70.
Continue.
No, 100.
Continue.
No, 150. Okay, tell me.
460 million views.
That's insane, man.
Right?
That's a fucking apocalypse, man.
I mean, just think about
And
that.
you know, when we were talking about it, you know, it's nothing like bad music there out there. It's like bad musicians. And when you talk about it, it's about, on one hand, it's a very good production if you can achieve that kind of amount of viewers or listeners. But on the other hand, the singing is pretty terrible in comparison, and the arrangement, everything is stripped down and minimalized, and it's a deterioration of music in my ears.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
it's not only talking about the taste and things like that. That's a plainly really really bad cover, but it has so much success. So who I am to say?
Oh man, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
absolutely.
You know, if it would have some success, but this is like it's insane. Yeah, there was this Steely Dan cover, which was also pretty stripped down and simplified, and yeah, the same story, right? Funny is that nobody here in Europe, almost nobody knows Steely Dan, because that's a real American band, and which is huge in America, but here nobody knows.
Yeah.
So when you make this cover, suddenly everybody knows this cover, but nobody knows Steely Dan.
Yeah.
Anyway,
They just think, wow, great song.
yeah,
But you don't know that it's not their song.
yeah. Well, that's sad.
All covers considered. I'm not sure. I think that cover of Shaka Khan, I think it also got like popular through social media videos, and that's really also another thing. Like what is happening to music, man. Whether it's TikTok or Instagram Reels, or music is often used, to create like a little story, and you sort of use it as a maybe as a voiceover or whatever. And it can be really fun, but it's kind of fucked up the direction it's taking, because this is sort of helping music get popular, right? If it's used a lot in these videos. And so people are even starting to make songs with the goal of it being used in those videos. So it's not like they're trying to make a good song to listen to. They're making a song that has like, catchy little parts like that you can use the snippet with, like where the lyrics are interesting, and it's just, I don't know, it's not even about listening anymore. It's just about like, how is it going to be used and heard the most often? And it's also incredible, this influence it has. I mean, sometimes like a snippet of a song is stuck in my head that I've never even heard. Like I've never even heard the whole song. I don't even know who it's from, but it's just stuck in my head because of those videos where everybody uses the same audio. And that's also just a strange development. Also, where like the success of a song isn't even measured by like how many people actively listen to it, but just like how many people use it in those videos and then, hear a little part of it. And that is again influencing music in a weird way. And also there, I think, it's such an overload of information, and you're just scrolling and there's just like 10 seconds of this song, 10 seconds of another song, 10 seconds of another. It's just so much information. And I mean, I'm not going to say I'm above it. Of course I do it too sometimes. And I know how easy it is to get stuck in it. Like, it's so addictive to have those dopamine hits. I absolutely understand, but sometimes I just have to put my phone down because I get overwhelmed with the input.
Oh, you mean like the old songs of Beatles, 2:01 to 11 were really long.
You mean in comparison to those 10-second snippets? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah, it's also an attention span thing, right?
Yeah.
Where songs are also getting shorter because people want them to end quickly and another song to come. That's kind of crazy. No, but it brings us back to the beginning, sort of, where we talked about how music is everywhere and there's so much input.
Yeah.
It's just an overload of audio information. And yeah, I think that brings us to a very crucial thing, and that's silence.
Yeah, silence. That means a lot. I mean, we can talk about silence all live long, but silence can be music too. Actually, when you think about it, because when it's silent, then suddenly all those sounds coming back to you, and all those sounds will be played in your head, and you can. I don't think that when something is crashing down or in the kitchen, and so that everything is about music, but the silence will soothe you down, and you will be more fresh to listen to the music again.
Yeah, I think that you can appreciate music a little bit more if you're not constantly listening to it. I've even, I love to just smoke a joint on the balcony and listen to music. And lately even it happens that like I put on a song and it's just like the perfect match for this moment. I enjoy it so much. It gives me such a good feeling that when it's done, I have to take my headphones off and listen to nothing else. I feel like if there's just going to be another song coming and another one, it's like I can't even appreciate this special moment I had with this song that was just right in this moment. And sometimes I feel like, okay, no, I don't need anything more. It just gave me what I needed. And yeah, so I'm also trying to become a bit more conscious about it, to not always grab my headphones and just do it out of habit also, or out of boredom, which is fine,
I don't know about that. I don't have a smartphone.
Yeah, for you it's easier.
No, what do we want to say? Actually, now it might sound strange, but take a break from the music. Take a break from the music, and next time you listen, you will be amazed.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I hope that you got some ideas of how music can be listened to in more conscious ways, in different ways, because there's so many different ways to listen and they can all give us a different experience. But I think that everybody who enjoys music already knows how to listen in a way, because that's what it's about. It's about feeling something. So you're doing a good job. Keep enjoying your music, but also try to challenge yourself and listen differently every once in a while. Or, as Mike said, don't listen every once in a while.
All right.
If you've been enjoying this podcast, there is a really simple way you can support us by leaving a good rating. So click on those 5 stars. It really helps us to reach new listeners. Thanks for your support.
So thank you for watching us.
For listening.
For listening. If you don't watch, then you're listening.
I hope they listened either way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was fun to be here.
Yes, and if you use the social media, then you can follow us at Mad Makings of Music, where we will post, snippets and updates, and you will know if a new episode comes out. So, yeah, hope to see you around. Hope to hear you around. All right. Listen next time. Bye.
Bye.